So China and Russia already have a head start in the race to offer vaccine options for mass distribution in developing countries. With nearly 64 million confirmed cases worldwide and over 1 million deaths recorded so far, the race for an approved vaccine has quickly turned political. And some nations are better equipped with the resources to battle the pandemic than others with struggling economies. A new Washington Post report looks at how China and Russia are using their vaccines to expand their political and economic influence globally, while the U.S. is sitting, quote, on the sidelines. So with us today is Washington Post foreign affairs reporter Emily Rauhala. She is one of the writers of this fascinating article. Thank you so much for joining us, Emily. I want to start with China. We have already sort of heard a bit about Russia's vaccine because they came out very early on and declared that they had a vaccine that was workable without third phase trials. Well, what about China? Where's China at in terms of its vaccine rollout, and how is it being used as part of its foreign policy?
So China's got a bunch of vaccines in development and in the trial phase. I think last I heard it was 5. What's so interesting to me about China's approach is that China's top leaders have said since the beginning, even in May, in the really early stages of this race, that they see vaccines as a public good. So Chinese President Xi Jinping at the World Health Assembly was up there saying, this is a public good, and we're going to provide it to other countries. And what we're seeing now as vaccine rollouts get closer is China really making a lot of promises, particularly in low and middle income countries, that if they don't have vaccine through other means, that China will deliver.
So in your article, you report that China is offering loans to countries who might not be able to afford the vaccine. What countries are already using its vaccine, and have these nations also received investment under the Belt and Road Initiative? It's interesting to me, during my time as a foreign correspondent in Africa, I noticed how China was sort of filling a vacuum that was left by the United States, which only ramped up under the Trump administration.
That's exactly it. So China already has this vast infrastructure development plan called the Belt and Road Initiative. And it's Xi Jinping's signature move. It's the really center of his foreign policy. And that initiative sees China giving massive investments, mostly in the form of loans, to countries around the world, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. Really, the scope is vast. And what's happening with vaccines now is vaccine diplomacy is being part of that larger project. So China's saying, you're our ally, you're working with us on the Belt and Road, we're cooperating in all of these ways, and we're now going to deepen that cooperation by working together on vaccines. Buy our vaccine, test it in your country, and you'll have a head start.
So back to Russia now, and I think people will recall that in the summertime, I think it was August or so, Russia came out with this Sputnik vaccine. Right. Moscow is producing the vaccine, but there have been challenges since. There were not phase 3 trials. They started distributing it to healthcare workers, and there have been some bumps along the road. What is Vladimir Putin saying about the vaccine?
That's exactly right. So we know a lot about what Russia is saying about the vaccine. We know less about the details of the vaccines, its potential efficacy, and where exactly it stands. But what Putin is doing is using this vaccine as part of a broader propaganda and PR push to position Russia as reemergent on the world stage and a global player. And so Russia is going to its allies and prospective allies and saying, we've got a deal for you, use our vaccine. And so far we've seen interest in places that you might expect. Hungary, the sort of nationalist far-right government there, is working with Russia. We also had one of the children of Maduro in Venezuela tweeting that he was honored to be part of Russia's testing of their vaccine.
So let's talk about these 171 nations that have joined the World Health Organization's COVAX program. The United States has not. Help us understand what COVAX is and its objective.
Right. So COVAX is the international community's effort to find a way to develop and equitably distribute vaccines. What that means in practice is rich countries and poor countries have been asked to pool their money and use that pool of money to buy drugs directly from drug makers, vaccines that is. So basically to pool the resources to get in on all of these deals for early doses of vaccines. What's so interesting about COVAX is that we have a lot of countries, wealthy countries that, in Europe, Canada, Japan, who have signed on to this deal, but are also cutting side deals. So they're saying, we're here, we're going to help with the international community, but at the same time, we're going to buy up early shares of the most promising vaccines. So there's a tension there. The other thing that's really interesting about COVAX is that the United States is pretty much the only major vaccine player that has opted out of participating. And a big question going forward is whether the Biden administration will change tactics on that.
All right, Emily, thank you so much for your reporting. Really, really great piece in the Washington Post. We appreciate it.
Thank you.